Okay, so, you know, everybody wants financial freedom, right? I mean, that's kind of the dream, isn't it? To not have to stress about money. And you've given us a roadmap with this deep dive into the 5 levels of financial freedom. It's like, I don't know, leveling up your finances, I guess.
Yeah, and what's really cool about these sources is it's not just about listing these levels. It's about figuring out where you are right now. Like it's like a financial compass, you know?
I like that, a financial compass. And
Yeah.
no judgment here, right? We've all been at different points on the journey. But that first level, modern slavery, I think that's one that a lot of people listening might relate to, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's probably more common than we think. And the source paints a pretty stark picture here. You know, someone who's working a 9 to 5, they might even have, what looks like a good job on paper,
Yeah.
but they're living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe they're relying on credit cards just to get by. And then like any unexpected expense could totally throw them off. And that's got to be stressful, right? Not just financially, but emotionally.
Mhm.
It can put a strain on relationships.
It's like that constant feeling of, oh my gosh, if anything happens, if there's any sort of emergency,
Yeah.
yeah. And what's so scary, as the source points out, it's not just about, low income.
Right,
Right.
exactly. You could have a decent salary and still find yourself in that trap,
Yeah.
A lot of it comes down to financial habits,
Yeah.
lack of planning, impulse purchases, or just the weight of things like student loans,
Yeah.
credit card debt.
So it's not even always about how much you earn, it's how you manage it.
100%.
That's huge. So, okay, so for our listeners, how can they kind of figure out if they're at risk of falling into that modern slavery trap? What are some warning signs?
I think one of the biggest red flags is consistently spending more than you earn and relying on credit to kind of fill that gap. So if you're someone who, dreads opening their banking app, or if the thought of, even trying to save money for the future just seems totally impossible because you're constantly trying to catch up, that's a sign you might need to like hit the brakes a little bit and really reassess.
Yeah, it's that honesty with yourself, right? Like really taking a look before it potentially gets out of control. Okay, but let's say someone's listening and they're like, "Oh, that's me. That resonates with me." What's like the first step? Like how do you even begin to kind of break free from that?
Well, it might seem kind of basic, but it starts with taking control of your spending. And the source gets really practical here. It talks about identifying your what it calls financial leaks. Those small expenses that seem insignificant in the moment, but when you add them up, they really make a difference over time. Like that daily latte, or, just random online purchases, those streaming services that you're paying for but you never use. Those things can really add up.
Right, it's those little choices, right? Like
Yeah.
do I need to go out to eat again today, or can I pack a lunch and put that money towards like building something for myself?
Exactly. Like shifting that mindset from, I deserve this treat to I deserve financial security.
I like that.
And once you've plugged those leaks, then the source talks about the importance of trying to create additional income streams. Even something small can make a huge difference in helping you to kind of break that cycle.
Yeah, and I love how the source really emphasizes resourcefulness here. Like it talks about renting out a spare room, maybe you freelance online, you drive for a ride-sharing service a couple hours a week. Just get creative.
Leverage what you have. Whether it's your skills, your assets, even just your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Find ways to create that breathing room. And that kind of leads us to that next level, that building wealth phase.
Okay, so let's paint a picture. You've plugged those financial leaks. You're starting to see a little bit more money in your bank account. You're actually using that budgeting app that you downloaded 6 months ago and forgot about. Maybe you've dipped your toe into investing. Maybe you've started a retirement account. Not massive wealth yet, but you're on the right track.
You're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think at its core, it's a fundamental shift in mindset, right? From scarcity and fear to proactivity and control. It's like you're not just reacting to financial fires anymore.
Yeah.
You're actually building something.
You're taking control.
Exactly.
Yeah. The source really highlights the importance of passive income streams at this stage.
Yeah.
It's like planting these seeds that will eventually grow into these financial trees. And you don't have to have a ton of money to get started. There's that example in one of the sources about like renting out your garage.
Oh, yeah. That one really resonated with me. And I think it highlights that, this level is not about hitting a certain income. It's about that creativity and resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even if you don't have a garage to rent out, what do you have?
Yeah.
And how can you make it work for you?
It's like that moment where you realize, wait a minute, I can I can actually do this. And speaking of aha moments, that takes us to level 3, which is all about, as the source puts it, tasting freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds pretty good,
Yeah,
right?
it does. Things are getting exciting here because we're moving beyond just, trying to stay afloat, right? We're starting to build real wealth.
Yeah, and it's like a whole different way of even thinking about income. The source really emphasizes this concept of residual income, which honestly, when I first heard that, it sounded a little bit intimidating.
I could see that.
But when you break it down,
Yeah. It's actually a pretty simple concept. It's just the idea that, instead of just trading your time for money like most of us do with a traditional job, you're creating things that generate income even when you're not actively working.
okay, so give us some like real world examples here, because assets, that can sound kind of vague. I know the source mentions like, writing a book.
Yeah.
But what else are we talking about here? What are some other things?
Well, I mean, think about like creating an online course, right? And selling it on a platform like Udemy. Or maybe you're really good at photography. You could sell your photos online through stock photography sites. Even just, investing in dividend-paying stocks. That's a form of residual income.
Okay, so it's like you're planting these money trees, right? That just keep giving you that fruit, even if you're, taking a break from watering them for a little bit.
I like that visual.
But the source does say, watch out, because you can get too comfortable at this level.
Yeah.
It's called tasting freedom, not, living it up.
Exactly. It's kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a trap, but it can be easy to get to that point where you've got some passive income coming in and think, all right, I'm good. I can just coast now.
Right.
But the sources really emphasize the importance of two things: continuous learning and diversification.
Okay, so at this level, what does that actually look like? Break it down for us.
Sure. So with learning, it's about always expanding your financial knowledge. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you decide, I'm going to read a book about investing this month, or I'm going to take an online course about real estate. Just don't get complacent. The more you know, the more you're equipped to make those smart decisions.
Knowledge is power.
Absolutely. And then diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Right.
That's so important, especially as you start building more wealth. You want to spread that risk around. So, instead of putting all your money in, say, the stock market, maybe you also invest in real estate. Maybe you look into bonds. Some people even get into alternative investments like precious metals or even cryptocurrency, depending on your risk tolerance.
Right. So it's like you're building that really solid portfolio that can kind of weather the storms.
Exactly. So you're tasting freedom, but you're also building that really solid foundation.
Yeah, you're setting the stage. Which brings us to level 4. And this is where things, I think, really start to feel really good. This is living free.
This is the dream, right?
It's like you've unlocked the cheat code for the game of life, where you get to just design your day around the things that bring you joy.
Yeah. The source talks about reaching this point where your passive income is fully covering your living expenses, which means you have the freedom to work if you want to, not because you have to.
It really is like stepping into a whole different world of possibilities.
You're in the driver's seat.
Totally. And the source, it describes it as like this deep sense of peace.
Yeah.
That comes along with knowing, okay, things are taken care of.
It's that security. It's not just about the money. It's about what the money allows you to do and how it lets you feel.
It's like a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah.
Your relationships probably get better. You can finally pursue those things you've been putting off, right?
You have the mental space. And the source makes a good point, too, which is that this level, it's going to be different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
For some people, it's early retirement and traveling the world. For others, it's, it's just having the flexibility to be home with my family more, or finally write that novel that's been in my head.
Yeah, it's defining that for you. What does living free actually look like? Not what, we see on TV or whatever. So for our listeners who are hearing this and thinking, man, that sounds amazing, what's one thing they can do like today to start moving in that direction?
I think it starts with getting really clear on your why. Like actually take some time to think about, what is it that matters most to you? If money was no object, how would you spend your days? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? And once you have that clarity, then you can start to align your financial goals with those values.
It's like making that vision board, but actually taking action on it.
100%. And that brings us to the peak of the mountain, right?
Yeah.
Level 5, beyond financial freedom.
Okay, so we go from living free to beyond. This is getting really interesting. What does that even mean?
So at this point, it's not just about your own personal financial goals anymore. It's about how you can use your wealth to actually make a difference in the world around you.
So it's really about that shift from what can I get to what can I give.
Exactly.
The source talks about things like angel investing or philanthropy, supporting those businesses that, maybe are doing something good in the world that you really believe in.
Yeah, it's that idea of stewardship, like recognizing that with great wealth comes responsibility.
Right.
And so how can you use those resources to empower others or address issues that you care about or just, give back in a meaningful way?
So you're not just, financially independent, but you have that ability to have an influence. Yeah. And the source also makes a really important point, which is that it's not just about, writing a check. It's about being really thoughtful. Where's your time going? Where's your energy going? How can you leverage all of your resources to have that kind of impact?
So being a mentor, being involved, not just being a source of funds,
Right.
that's powerful. But this level, it's got to come with its own set of challenges too.
No, of course. I mean, anytime you're dealing with that level of wealth, it can be tricky to navigate. The source talks about the importance of staying grounded.
Yeah.
It's easy to become isolated,
Right.
or lose touch with reality a little bit.
It's about using that wealth as the tool, right, for good,
Yeah.
but not letting it change who you are.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
So we've climbed that mountain, right, those 5 levels, from almost feeling trapped, modern slavery, all the way to living free and then going beyond. What really stands out to you, looking back on everything we talked about today? I think it's that reminder that, financial freedom, it's not this finish line you cross,
It's a journey.
It's a journey. It's about constantly learning, growing, and figuring out how to use those resources in a way that feels good and that has a positive impact.
So whether you're just starting out or, you've already achieved a certain level of success, it's about constantly striving to make those smart choices.
And aligning those choices with what matters to you.
Love that. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. And it's clear, financial freedom, it's within reach, no matter where you're starting from.
It's a journey, but it starts with that first step, right?
Absolutely. That decision to take control.
So that everyone listening, what's one action you can take this week? Big or small, it doesn't matter.
Just take that step.
Take that step and keep moving forward.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.